Boys and girls, welcome to another episode of the Mindful Investor Podcast Show. Steve and Alex here. Very excited on this show. We have a phenomenal guest lineup. So we went to Nashville.
Yeah, Bigger Pockets Convention.
Bigger Pockets Conference. Those of you, if you're in investor's world and you don't know who Bigger Pockets is, you're not really serious.
You're not in the investor world.
Yeah, you're not serious about it.
Not at all.
So Bigger Pockets is a community. Enough said. Everybody should know that name. Millions of people do, in fact. But we had the interview with your friends.
Yep. Tarl and Grace Yarber.
Yeah, and one of the key takeaways I had from the interview experience was how to operate as a husband and wife, how to sort of separate the work, how to be passionate, enjoy the work, but don't sort of find a way not to butt heads, find a way not to dominate the other person. It's real, true partnership. To me, that was fascinating because my wife and I worked together in a previous company. And we still may work together. We're in a similar business, right? In marketing and broadcasting and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think what you're going to take away from this is, number one, how they can, assign...
That's number two, by the way. No, I just gave number one.
Okay, well, so number two, but mine's number one for me. You're going to learn how they, as Alex said, how they operate together on work on their strengths. But more importantly, the thing that you're really going to take away from this is the fact that they have their life first and they have their business wrap around their life. Most of us do it the other way around. And so they're very cognizant of that. They take over 100 days a year of vacation. They're very, very successful in the real estate industry. They have Fixated on Real Estate group, and they have a huge events company. They do these huge expos on top of everything else. I mean, they're like the dynamic couple, man.
Without further ado, let's get into the show.
Here we go. So we're here at Bigger Pockets, and one of the best things about coming to these conferences is you get to hang out with some amazing, like-minded people, and I get to talk to my very good friends that I've known for years, and we talk real estate. We all know real estate. We're involved in it, and Tarl and Grace they've been a huge impact for me. We've been great friends. I've spoken at their conferences in the Pacific Northwest. Very good friends, and guys, thanks for being here today. I just enjoy every time the energy of you guys. It's really cool. I really appreciate you guys always blessing me with your day, I guess I would say.
It's almost like we're the best thing that ever happened to
you. You are the best thing that ever happened to me.
As for me, I don't know Tarl and Grace at all, but I've heard a lot of good things about them. So yes. As our audience, they're probably sitting on the edges of their chairs now, figuring out what is this episode going to be about? What it's going to be about is this. You guys seem to be like a power couple, they say, but you work together, and this is interesting. You probably had jobs in the past. You quit those jobs and you decided to do business. Decided to do it together, and you're doing it well. And you seem like you at least tolerate each other to some extent.
At least for this episode.
Yeah. No, but you seem like really into each other, which is awesome. And so maybe other couples out there can learn from you. So we want to sort of explore that avenue.
Yeah. So let's just start. You guys are in the Seattle area, Pacific Northwest. And you guys have different avenues that you do, right? Mm-hmm. So you guys do, are you doing the flipping and rehabbing, or what are you guys actually doing now at this point?
Right now, we still focus on single family, fix and flip, with an emphasis on keeping them at the end. So we do a lot of what's the BRRRR strategy: buy it, rehab it, rent it, refinance it, repeat. Mm-hmm. So we haven't changed much in our business model over the years. We've done a little close to 600 flips so far. But at the end of the day, over the last 2 years, we've been keeping more and more of them. And so it's basically, instead of selling it at the end, we just refinance it and keep it as a rental. No. So it's a different strategy for us, but we're actually doing less volume on than ever because we decided to live a more lifestyle business, and so we travel a lot for the last 2 years.
Yeah, you guys are everywhere now. But before we talk about the lifestyle, what was the reason that you guys went from the selling to the keeping and holding?
Well, ultimately, we both have our different reasons, but ultimately, I was working a ton running the company. Grace was a C-level at a tech company, and so she was working with them. And we just got to a point in our lives where we just really we were just going different paths. And if you ever asked us what we wanted in our lives at that moment, was just to be together as much as possible. And I at that point realized I was doing real estate for no other reason just to do real estate and just make money. And so I'm like, what can we do to change our lives? What can we do to change our path so we can actually live a happy life and actually enjoy each other's company and go be together all the time? And so we sat down over the course of a few weekends and we figured out what we really wanted out of life. And it wasn't so much the financial side, it was more the experiences and life side. And we made a plan then for, at that point, Grace to quit her job, and then, which was only like 2 weeks later. And so, and she went full time in the business, but with an emphasis that we would actually reduce our volume, go straight passive as much as possible, and then go live our life every day more in a travel aspect and fun aspect. And I mean, you don't need to make a lot of money to be able to live the life that you really want. For most people.
Right. And if I may, if I can add to Tarl's thing, to really have that why reasoning, to some investors that I began networking when I came to real estate about 4 years ago, when Tarl and I started getting together as a couple. A lot of people, I think, have association saying like a W-2 job is bad. Mm-hmm. Investments are good. So I think I want to emphasize is whatever that is your end goal, whatever way you headed, I think that's what important is for a couple or an individual to emphasize what that is, right?
Yeah.
Versus being like, oh no, you have to quit W-2 job in order to be happy and to really have that end game. And I think what it was to us in our relationship, it was a little bit delayed because I was actually happy what I did. I was challenged at the job because I get bored so fast, and any activity that I do, I was working for a software company and I was actually enjoying. And then people used to ask me, so when are you quitting? I'm like, why would I want to quit? But they said, because you're a wife of Tarl Yarber. you guys do investments.
You're
I'm
the wife
yes.
of.
But I can still, part-time manage our rentals while I'm being very fulfilled in my full-time job. But then it was a big aha moment, be okay, we merged our, a two separate people together as a couple in marriage, that we all we want is to be together.
Right.
And that was the ultimate answer to us. Be wait, okay, even I enjoy my life as in W-2 job plus the investments, but the wake up call was life is okay, sticking, right? Will we be happy a year or 2 years from now if our day-to-day life how it is today? And that was I think the tipping point. Be I'm you know what? As much as happy as I am, my top priority is to be together. And I said we have to plan exit strategy how I get out of my job.
Wow.
So that's my input, yeah.
And every day since then, we've been together every day except you went to Europe for 3 weeks with your mom.
That's right.
And then I went to Mexico with buddies and stuff. But other than that, for the last 2 years, we've been together every day.
That is fascinating. So you're setting, as a company would set these large goals, this 5-year goals, as a family, you got together. I just listened recently to one of Tim Ferriss's, I'm a big fan of Tim Ferriss and his podcast, and he had, I can't remember, I'm terrible with names, but the guest was talking about this family planning, same as business, same level what you guys just did, and that fascinated me. So you've done this. So this is takeaways number one, sit down with your significant other and decide what matters to you most, and it could be the W-2 job. You could be, or it could you just decide to.
Or it could be a business partner. It could be anyone that you work with. What is your end game? What is important to you?
And what the key factor for us was a moment at the end of 2017 where I'd come to a crossroads on a lot of our business. I was burning out. Grace and I wanted to be more together, but it wasn't until a buddy of ours named Thatch, who we really, really, really respect, very, very successful, and he had transformed his entire life to be more of a lifestyle as well. But he had said something so you hear statements in personal development and business, and if you're not ready for that statement, you just kind of pass on with your life, whatever, right? So and you don't hear it. And it was at a moment in October 2017 where he's the problem is most people plan out their entire business, design their entire business, and have a plan for that, and then whatever's left over, they put their life into that. And so they plan their life around their business. Versus
sounds familiar.
Yeah. I think we all do that probably.
He's it's so easy though. It's why don't you plan out what you want in your life first and figure out what do you want your life to look like and what do you want your life to be, and then go plan that out, and whatever's left over, make your business fit that. And I'm
that's profound.
Yeah, it is.
Make your business fit the life that you want. I'm
is that possible?
As soon as he said it, I'm I could do that. Like, we could easily do that, actually. Why aren't we doing that?
Yeah.
Like, so that's what led to us sitting down over a few
That was-
weekends. And
Yeah.
yeah, and we designed everything we wanted. Now we actually live, like, actually, it's been times where you be careful what you ask for, too, because we planned out exactly what we wanted. And then, like, I remember, like, 4 or 5 months later, we lived everything we wrote out, and we were bitching about it because we were like, we got this to do, we have to, oh my God, we have to do this, now we have to travel there, now we do that. And we're like, wait a
It's
second.
another to-do list.
Yeah.
But this is what
like
we wanted.
exactly what we wanted.
It's like a coming to fruition. So
Yeah.
it's like the recognition and
Yeah.
awareness, the mindset.
Yeah.
We started laughing about it too. We're like, all right, we need to chill out. Like, this is
And
actually
it
a
made
design.
us to like embrace it, like
Yeah.
and be much happier, even though we were having so many things in business successfully happening. Everything we wrote on a big easel, you know.
Yeah. And now you guys, and before you were saying like you guys traveled so much that you're kind of tired of traveling, right? That you're
That's
gonna
right.
pare that back a little bit.
Yeah, over the last 2 years, last year, 2018, we traveled 102 days, pretty much all for fun. And then this year, we're on track we're at 89 right now. We'll be at 127 by the end of the year. And based on travel.
127 what?
Days.
Oh, wow. Okay. Days
By
a
the
year.
end of the year.
So let me ask you this: how do you guys, for people that are married and they want to get to where you guys are at, right? What advice would you give a married couple that, let's say they're both W-2s and they're going, man, I want to start my own business, whether it's real estate or not. You know, real estate is just the product of what you guys are doing, but it's still the marriage of you guys coming together and having that conversation. Where do couples even have that initial conversation to realize that they've got to take it a step further?
I think the most important thing is like a lot of people get attracted by the highlights, by the HDTV. That's
Yep.
how you flip the house so
Yep.
fast, right? It's really like just being true to yourself and allowing that space to really think for yourself, and then bring in that significant other, whether it's your business partner or a spouse in
Sure.
our case. So I think that's super, super important. Like we even met one couple in Seattle, very successful jobs, but they were just very attractive to like investments, and they have a capital. Like they want to be investors, but then we start challenging them, be like, you guys doing so well, what you already do, like what is your why?
Right.
Like why you even want to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to be, like a passive investor? Do you want to give your money to like syndications, or it could be any of the extra strategy? So I think that's like a number one thing. And then is really finding out, do both of you need to be in a business, right?
Sure.
It could be just one, like really taking charge and just like leading the way.
And what are your strengths? So
Strengths and weaknesses.
Absolutely. And the big thing for us, what makes us work well as a couple, is that we have very clearly defined lanes. When Grace was going to quit her job, she was just like, I'm not coming to work for you, right? And it's business. And so
before like we planned the exit strategy, I'm like, I'm not leaving my job, because I've seen that, and I think a lot of couples
Right.
can relate to
And
that.
then it gets resentment.
Like my marriage is like my number one thing. So like I don't want to create that challenge. So like we're not gonna be even friends, right? So,
Yeah.
So that was a big wake up.
And I'm very, very, very fortunate to have a wife like Grace that can sit there and like some it's challenging for some people to turn off the work mode and be husband and wife mode, and for whatever reason, like I'm able to switch, like, oh, now you're my wife, now you're my business partner, now you're my wife, now you're my business partner. And Grace is very good at that too.
I'm getting better.
She's getting better every day.
I'm more business like. I get so driven. I'm like, oh, let's discuss this deal. Like I get like very fired up.
Yeah, so we're able to sit there and talk to each other, be like, hey, can we be husband and wife right now?
Guys, I mean, this is fantastic. So this is, I think, a very advanced kind of tactics and strategies for families or for husband and wife or couples to plan. I want to get to the grind. Like, I want to understand like how you got here. Like, it's a privileged spot to be able to plan these kind of things and have you exit the C-level job. And probably it's not like you were, making minimum wage. I mean, you had to replace that income, or at least, decide to live with less of an income. I want to understand the grind. Guys, give me some of the stuff you grind through to get to that point.
Okay. So how about flipping 600 houses and
I have a question
Yes.
follow-up. Flipping 600 houses. Yeah, so that's a lot of work. How big is your team?
right now?
Well, let's go. Yeah, let's go.
Well, let's talk
progressively.
about how we got there, and
yeah.
then they pared down to be more
Yeah.
strategic.
So I mean, like the story though, like the truth be told though, like is like most of this story though was my story coming into it, and then Grace and I, when we got together, she met me when I was in the thick of a lot of stuff, And then she was a very independent woman. She already had her career. She was just like, that's great. I'm like, cool, I got my thing, you got your
I'm
thing.
like, you do Tarl, I do me, and then we are very happy. But then it was like the number of hours limited every day.
And so she has her story when it comes to getting into real estate, but it started with basically, in a nutshell. There's a lot of story here, but the short story portion of it is full time in 2012 in real estate. I never did just my first flip. There was never that story. Like, it was like our first like 8 and 6 or whatever. Like, it just went. So I was a partner in a service area management company for Fannie Mae based out of Phoenix, and I was living in Washington, and I started running the Washington area for that, and we started just doing a bunch of REO fixers for Fannie Mae so that they would get them ready for listings for the REO agents during like just tons of REOs everywhere, right? And we started opening up in multiple states, and we got to a point where we're in 7 states, and I was flying around the entire U.S. Just opening up these markets because I wasn't married, didn't have kids, and I was really, really good at networking. So I could fly into an area and open up.
Still good.
Yeah, still good.
Still good.
It's like
and so we were building all these relationships with all the top real estate brokers in all the different states for REO. So all the Fannie Mae, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, all the different ones out there. We were at Aquin, and we were building all these relationships. Then we had all these contractors that we would have, anywhere in any state, we'd have 20 or 30 general contractors that were underneath our license to be able to work with Fannie Mae. So we had all these boots on the ground, we had all these systems, and then me and my partners at the time just said, why aren't we flipping any houses? And then we just kind of started buying houses, but we didn't understand how to raise capital, right? So we're like giving away 80% of the equity to people and splitting it 3 ways, the 20% 3 ways, think it's cool, right? Because money was hard to give. We just kind of stumbled to this whole system of just buying all these properties in different states, and that grew and grew and grew. And then in 2014, in February, we had a business partnership fall out where the other 2 business partners that were in the new entity, which was for flipping houses, pretty much, for lack of a better word, backstabbed me, and where it felt like 2 brothers that I'm like, I'm gonna go to war with forever.
Yes.
Like, I was the naive one apparently.
Yeah.
So, and it rocked my world big time, and it made me to where I never want to do real estate again. And we'd already done hundreds of properties by then, and this is a very short condensed period of time. We were just going.
Yeah.
And so in 2014 February, that business partnership collapsed with me leaving it. And I said, I'll never do real estate again. Grace and I were together then. She saw me that day when that happened, when I like figured it out, and I told the guys I'm out. I just didn't know what to do with myself, so I went.
The worst of Tarl scene, and he was crushed.
Yeah, because it's like brothers. Like,
sure.
I ended up going to IKEA that night and just buying a bunch of IKEA furniture and putting it together. So I didn't know what to do with myself.
That's the venting method.
Grace comes over, she says a bunch of drawers and things.
Drawers and screws
I'm like,
together.
just fixing stuff, drinking.
And I think that's about the time I met you, right? Is that 2015? I think is when you and I met.
Yeah, so this is 2014. So
I was
out. I was never gonna do real estate.
Oh,
again.
okay.
Like 6 months later, after traveling, drinking, and playing video games, I got suckered back into real estate by some buddies, and that led to us creating Fixated Real Estate. And I started on my own, but I was just kind of helping buddies out with some stuff, and then eventually some opportunities came out to where we just started buying a lot more properties internally for my own company, and then Fixated Real Estate got created. And I did, for the first time in my life, I did one thing and one thing only in 2015, and that was flip houses. All the other years prior, I always had multiple businesses going on, multiple consulting things, multiple ventures, and I was successful, but I didn't achieve great success until I only focused on one niche, and that was flip. And then I got really good at that, and now we're adding on to it, and it just progressed. And so when I get bored, I start new things. So we started an events business too, and a bunch of other stuff. So it's,
but all the things that you're doing are very good, because I think I'm guessing because you focus on that one thing that you're doing at the time, right?
And I think the lesson is really we as humans, if something happens, even the moments when he was crushed and the partnership falls, it's like, oh shit, this is so bad.
Yeah.
But I think it's as a human mind, sometimes it's to reflect, and there's a very famous video, it's called Good by Jocko Willing. It's what is good, just YouTube, look it up.
What bad thing that happened to you that you can actually look at as a good thing?
That you can turn it to what is good out of it, right? So it's I think it's a big lesson that we always, anything that's unpleasant happens in our lives, personal, business, we always switch around as what do we get good out of it?
Right.
It's
what lesson?
Yeah, but surprisingly how our mind then begins focusing on good stuff.
Right.
Because we can be in that rabbit hole in that circles like, oh, like my life sucks, or like
Yep.
it's so bad, like, and the depression and all those things come up. And hey, investment world, investor life is not always,
Yeah, it's a sandbox to
So-
blame, right? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
This is where stoicism, like I've been
Yeah.
learning stoicism.
Stoicism is huge,
It's just
yeah.
an amazing sort of technique or
embrace the good.
Well, even
Yeah.
Because there's so
just
so
mental
much,
model. Like it's not happening to you.
it's happening for you.
Right. That you need to be outside of it and it's just sort of like explore it as you would outside of your own body and sort of. There's a lot of points to the philosophy, but it helped me through some hard things.
Amen.
It certainly did, and this is something I think folks can look up. I mean, again, Tim Ferriss is big
Yeah.
on stoicism, and
Stoicism.
he has got this book that is given away for free that people can read, and we'll cite it in show notes. But
Well, I just want to emphasize
yeah.
one thing on what you just said. The best thing that ever happened to me was my partnership falling out. Right. Just to that point.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's my
Later,
point,
later that same partnership, the guys that got left into it, they're destitute now. Like I mean, they messed their entire. One got into
drugs.
major drugs and prostitution. Not that he was a prostitute. But,
oh, it got tough.
Not that
Just
I
like-
know of, right?
But bad drugs. The other person, super miser, and he just ran the company to the ground. And and like the best thing that happened, I would have never created what we had if it
Sure.
wasn't for them backstabbing me. And so it's you never know.
They would
So it's
always
awesome.
hold you back.
Yeah.
What's the premise behind Fixated Real Estate, and what's the name? What did the name come from?
Name came from a random
funny.
word generator because I just needed an entity to be able to run some of our profit through from our other business. So so I'm like, oh, Fixated, whatever, that sounds cool. So that's pretty much all it came from. And then it just adapted to its thing. Now we have a meetup that we run called Fixated on Real Estate.
So we
right?
added
So,
on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we got really creative there. And then, but there's no other backstory besides that.
But what's the premise behind the entity?
Mm-hmm.
Is it just sort of your fix and flip entity?
So Fixated Real Estate right now is just our branding. We run no real estate through it whatsoever because we used to, but for asset protection purposes, it's too popular now. So we run all our real estate into our other entities and stuff too, which we're not going to say. So, but for
Maybe right on this.
but
Yes.
Fixated Real Estate's a branding now, so it's our events business. It's what we're known for. You Google my name, it pops up everywhere. Like so, it's what it is for our branding purposes only.
Let's talk about events, Steve. Sorry,
Yeah.
just one thing I wanna dig a little deeper in.
That's
So-
actually where I was going to go on this.
Perfect. So maybe our listeners are thinking, okay, I attended a lot of meetups. Maybe I have some connections. I want to have deeper relationships with people around me, so I want to create events. So I ran 3 events myself. You are what, on your third, second,
For annual, we're going on
Right.
the 4th.
annual, fourth. So you have some experience. Like what?
And he does a lot of the
Monthly meetups.
monthly meetups as well in multiple cities now too.
So very interesting. So how do you peg the success? Because in my view, it's hellish labor with zero appreciation, no love, and no
the-
money. How
I
do
make
you?
money.
Sorry, how do you judge it? Is it good for you? Has events been? Have you guys figured out events?
I'll answer
Be
that.
honest.
So in the beginning, no, it sucked. So it was a lot of work, like just so you said, very little to no money.
Whoever came up with that idea, do an event.
I know, right? So literally, our events business
Yeah, I
started.
feel like it was never for profit. Like, hey, we're gonna do it because we're gonna make huge margin. That was
Yeah,
not a
everything.
top intention ever.
No, truth be told, the only way to make real money in an events business for real estate is to sell from the stage. And
yeah.
that's the only, and we've done enough. Our last event, we had
And
a
we've attended the events
Yeah.
that they sell on stage, and we liked it.
and
Some of it.
there's a lot of money to be made there. Our annual event, we're at a 50% expense for it, so we're 50% profit ratio on our annual
I
event.
know how you do that.
That's great.
Yeah, and one day we'll talk about it. So but
That's how
there's a
to.
lot to it. Now, what we learned from the last event, even though we're at a 50% profit for it, the amount of time, energy, effort, everything come from it, right?
The hourly rate, you still get
Yeah.
$8 an hour. Bro.
Aspect. So what I've learned from it, we get more out of the indirect approach from doing the events, from all the different tertiary things from the relationships and all the different strategic partnerships and everything, that this next one that we do in 2020 for our annual event, we're going to be more hands off in the sense where I'll hire a marketing company to do it instead of us doing the marketing, for instance. And so things that we can take off our plate to make it more of a cookie cutter approach. and go like, okay, I don't need to have a 50% profit ratio. Why not have like a 20% instead?
And have nothing to do with it.
Have less to do with it. Yeah. And because there's
To
certain
buy
things
time that we can be using for
to then
something else.
emphasize back into our personal business and get it. We can spend more time focusing on promoting our stuff within the event versus just promoting the event. And so that'll change things for us and make our lives a lot happier. We also turn our event to a charity fundraiser as well. So we raised $230,000 at the last one.
And thanks to Steve, he has generously has given his time to.
Yeah. Twice, and it's the first one you guys did great, right? The first event, or not the first time you raised the money last year.
120,000 the first year, 230 the second year.
Yeah,
and
great.
then that's not
Travis Mills
that's
Foundation.
not including the profit. So like that's all donation, 100%.
That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
Grace, what do you think about events? It's a lot of work. It's very, very busy. Are you getting tasked with this, or like who does most work?
I absolutely love events. And,
you do?
Absolutely love. I think that's why we are such a good team. Like my main role in our investment business is managing our rentals. So events is another aspect where we both like brought together, and our team like we absolutely love, and it's a huge reward where you create an event that you can give back to community, and we really believe in choosing to raise money for some like a local organization that we do due diligence on our end as well, such as Travis Mills Foundation that helps veterans post 9/11 that have maybe some ailments and amputees to come back to doing different adaptive sports. So we really believe in that versus helping children in Africa, as much as like here would like to spread and help everybody, but I feel like we need so much help at home here in the United States. So and that's where our mission, any future organizations we will choose, it will be locally based.
Yeah, and Travis Mills, he's got a whole up in Maine, a whole thing that and you guys have been there a couple times, or
twice.
Now is that when you got to fight Jocko, or what was that? Is that where that was at?
Yeah, I got the fight Jocko, almost had him.
Yeah, I saw that. That was close. It was close. Yeah.
But whatever. I let him get this one because you don't want to roll with do jiu-jitsu with your idol and like beat him and stuff, right? So
I'd like to give a credit to Tarl. Like we listen to a lot of podcasts. One of Tarl's favorite podcasts is.
Besides this one.
Of course.
Is Jocko Willings.
Jocko Willings. And Jocko was interviewing Travis Mills, actually, who's the founder of the organization that he raised the funds for. I remember Tarl was so fired up. He's like, I have no idea how, but we're gonna help this organization.
That's cool.
So like the power that podcasts have, and like creating that space and time to listen and learn from it is so important.
And we found out too, actually, when we were just in Maine a few weeks ago and that's where Travis is and Jocko was there, where that one podcast episode that Jocko did for Travis Mills raised $500,000 for the Travis Mills Foundation.
Wow.
And we were 350 of it. So
that is awesome.
But anyways, besides the point, that's the event that goes full circle back. One day I woke up and I said, we should do our own meetup, right? And we did a meetup. 2 weeks later, we had 110 people show up to it. And we just decided I'm just going to do the meetup that I want to go to, right, as an investor, and kind of taking to Tim Ferriss's approach of audience of one first. And so Tim Ferriss talks about that with his podcast. Like he just wanted to do his own podcast for himself, like to interview people that way. So I'm like, all right, we'll do the same thing with our meetup. And then 110 people showed up. The next month, 220 people showed up. And I'm like, all right, well, I guess people want to do this. So it just became a regular monthly thing, and consumed me. Initially, because she still worked her job at the time, and it actually took away from our real estate business. It actually hurt us a little bit, right? Because I was taking my eye off the ball because I was so focused on the new shiny object, and that we learned to adapt through that. And it wasn't actually until Grace was really full time that the events business started figuring itself out, because I might be able to bring the people, but she's the glue to everything. So she keeps
Grace runs it. Grace runs a conference. She does a great job.
Yeah. So a question: you manage events, and that's a lot of moving parts. Like I know it's could be exciting, thrilling, but it's also like you got to be super well organized. Okay, managing properties is kind of similar. What do you like more? Like, do you like managing properties your thing, or are you doing it because you have to and you'd rather do events?
To me, like real estate, there's not much excitement about it. Like I think that's why Tarl and I be like so together on the same page. To me, it's a vehicle to our freedom. So like my end goal is like, okay, we would like to have a family and future children. I want to hustle and work to create that, passive income. So then I have a choice whether to work or like spend X number of hours with the kids or not. So like that becomes a choice. So same with like events. I think it has a lot of similarity when it comes to property management. There's events are so much more exciting, I think, because like that's where like meeting Steve, meeting you, like anybody, like
It's
so
not a
much-
complaint counter necessarily, although it is,
so much
but it's not as
networking.
bad, right?
It's like, hey,
Yeah.
I share information, what I have learned, like you sharing what's happening in your life. I'm like very, very social, so events
Yeah.
business, it becomes like it's not like a job or work, like.
And it's a fun thing.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it. Property management. It's I don't want to say a necessary evil, but it's people call when they have a problem. They don't
Yeah.
call you to say, "Hey, this is great." When
Yeah.
you're doing an event, you're building up to an exciting thing.
It
Where
could be though.
Yeah, like, I don't want to bitch about
Well,
that. For a second. So, yeah, there's
well,
plenty
from
of
my
times where it's
perspective,
like-
I've never put them on, but
Yeah, it's exciting once it's done sometimes.
Yeah.
So, like,
you were a little more.
leading
You're
up to it.
definitely more stressed when you're at the events.
You
That's true.
see that you move people, but it's like
Yeah.
you always get back to the people that they're upset. The vendors didn't get the right
True,
location.
yeah.
I mean, gosh, there's so many things. Like the chicken is not right. You know, somebody who quit. Like it was in the middle of it. Like there's so many things going on. But if you, like I'm saying, if you want your properties managed, we know a property manager in
Oh, yeah.
Seattle that can help.
Yes.
Awesome.
Cheers.
I cannot-
Enrique, you ever heard of him?
Yeah, Ricky.
Cannot wait to hear.
Yes.
So can I give you one example? We
Yes.
were flying to Bigger Pockets conference, and in Seattle, TSA agent, he looks at me. He's like, "Oh my gosh, you look so excited. You must be going on vacation." I was flying to Bigger Pockets
Yeah,
conference.
I am going on vacation.
So like just to answer your question a little bit, like events are amazing, like especially like when you attend to other people's events, so it's like not as much stress like when we are hosting ours, I guess.
Yeah, and even
Sure.
as
Much more
investors or other
satisfaction.
people, if there's not networking's so important, and if you're not finding any place to go network, then create your own thing. That's what I kind of believe in, and just make it. Who cares
That's what
about
happened.
catering to everybody else? Just create what you want to go to, and then the people that are interested in the same things as you are will show up to it, and the people that aren't going to show up. And why would you want them to show up? Because they're not interested.
Yeah,
So it's like,
true.
just create your own thing.
Well, and I think that when you go to these events and you meet people like Grace and Tarl, I mean, well, we'll use your event. Bigger Pockets guys were there. Brandon, I met Brandon. I met all the people.
Scott was there.
Scott was
Yeah.
there. And the next thing you know, that led to doing a mastermind. And so then we're 3 months ago, we're all in Maui together doing a mastermind, getting to know each other much more in depth and having conversations.
Now it's like one family. Like
Yeah,
everyone's
now
filling
everyone's here and you know them, and these are all people from all walks of real estate, but doing something. But it was the event that actually got that whole thing started. So without that event, I would have never met all the other people, and it would not have led to what we're doing today. So I see that as the plus of the events, but I don't see the back end of what's going on.
The takeaway for the listeners here is like, hey, attend these high quality events
Absolutely.
that people recommend. Like, go to Bigger Pockets, go to PNW,
Yep.
like go to the respected events, and from there you can network out to see other events. But my little tidbit on top of this would be, like, see if you can become a speaker, because that's the best. You don't want to be event host. Trust me. Like, it's you guys are painting a pretty picture. Like, I know there's a lot of problems. You love it. Like, good luck finding somebody who loves it like that.
Yeah.
But like, to be a speaker at an event, like if you're good at something, you probably need it. Like, that would be the best status. Like, you attend as a speaker, you get instant credibility, respect, and you meet higher caliber people. You have deeper conversations.
Sure.
Steve's always a speaker everywhere you go. Tarl, I don't know if you speak a lot.
Yeah.
Besides
Grace,
my
do you speak?
Yes, I do. Besides my husband, Steve is one of my other favorite speakers.
Oh, look at that. Thank you.
His head does not need to be any bigger. Okay. He is
But
good.
yeah, I think that, but it's a good point. I mean, and not even as a speaker, just going and being open to meeting people. And I think, I think a lot of times when people go to events, they always want to put on a persona that they're bigger and more successful than they are. But if
A
you
little
go
puffed out, yeah.
yeah, but if you go to an event and you're just open with people and you just talk to them and you're, open about what you're doing or where you want to go,
That's the key.
people will be very receptive to helping you. And especially, and again, just going back to the theme of this whole thing was, you get a husband and wife doing something. If husband and wives want to go, they should go together, because what happens? The husband comes back from an event and he tells his wife, "We're doing this, 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 and this," and the wife's like, "Oh, he went to a conference again." But if the wife goes with them, then all of a sudden she starts seeing it, she gets it, she understands it,
I agree.
and then they do it as a team,
We
right?
met two couples today, actually. They were approached like, "Oh, I'm talking to my girlfriend," and you remember that one guy from Ohio? He's like, "Oh no, like she's not in it, like she."
Yeah.
And because he's here alone.
Yeah, exactly. But even if they're not into it, but if they're just here, and they see what you're seeing and they get the vibe and they get everything, at least when you go home, you understand it's a support system, and it's respectful of what, if Tarl was doing all this and you didn't want to know anything about it, and Tarl was off running around doing bigger pockets and conferences, you'd be like, what are you doing? Where are you going? And so there becomes the disconnect, right?
And it might become friction into some couples as well, because then it's time spent elsewhere, and it could be like a little kids and like football games are missed, whatever, right? Like then we realize like how much it takes to build that business.
Absolutely.
And networking is the key. It has been for us.
Piggyback on that. The number one reason why I believe anybody should go to these things is networking more than anything. And
I agree.
I think that I can say right now 100%, well, 99% of the reason why I think I'm successful is because of networking and just meeting people and harvesting those relationships and building those relationships. And it's been so huge over the years for our company in so many ways.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I just from your last event, the amount of people that I've met, that was what, 6 months ago, your event?
Yep.
April,
And you guys had 900 people
950.
there. 950, sorry. But I mean, but the people that I got to meet, and just from that elevated me to another level of getting to know the people. You got to go hang out with Forbes Riley.
Yes.
I mean, just the people that were there, and you got to, where were you? You were in Idaho with Ken?
Oh, Ken McElroy.
Yeah, so you got to meet Ken McElroy. I mean, I
became friends with Ken McElroy, the author of ABC Real Estate Investing, because of our event.
Because of your event.
Now we're buddies.
Yeah.
But even then, it's like, it's all, even when something bad happens, like this is what I leverage most of my networking for, is that when something really bad happens to us in real estate, I call other investors that I've networked with that have had same experiences. And be like, hey, when this has happened to you, like, what do you do? Like, we had a house burned down for the first time a few weeks ago. And I'm like, I've never had a house burned down. So besides my insurance company, I'm calling other investors and be like, hey, have you had a house burned down?
What do I need to know? Absolutely, yeah.
He did, so he
I
read his
down,
book. It's a good book.
Yeah.
He's smiling still now.
It was a while back, right? I just read his book on a plane right here, which is very educational, by the way. Those of you listening, Steve Rosenberg, pick up his book, How I Failed My Way to Millions.
Failing My Way to Millions.
Failing My Way to Millions. Really good stuff. It's a short read, but impactful. Let's finish with this.
Wait, millions in debt or millions?
Just millions. I never said dollars. I just said millions.
One thing I wanted to sort of like a fantastic interview. I think everybody's learning a lot. You guys have passion for each other, which is, I think,
awesome.
I think that's where you start with. Like, you want to spend time with each other. So if you're listening, you don't want to spend time with your significant other, I don't think whatever you do, it's not going to work, right? Mm-hmm. So you're passionate for each other. But then from there, you work it out. You start with why, and you build it out. You are like master networker, and this is something I want to take away from this interview as well as the audience. How do you keep track of all those relationships? Like, you also have to prioritize them, don't you? Like, you don't want to just be keeping track with everybody, because then you have no time. So how do you do that?
That's a great question. So I used to actually keep CRMs on people and stuff, and keep notes and whatnot, and even take pictures of the business cards and go from there. Over the last 2 years, I've become really lazy with that, because it's just too many people on a sense, and I haven't needed, sounds bad, but I haven't needed to build the company as much as I used to. Instead, I'm really a good strategic networker now, so I focus on the ones that I'm going to build relationships with, because there's time's limited. So I will still keep track of people. We'll still keep cards, do all that stuff. We'll still have social media relationships. And all that great stuff. But the people that I know, I'm like, no, I'm actually going to build a relationship with this person because they're somebody that I want in my life in some capacity. Then I just absolutely put the effort into it as much as possible. And so,
is that why you don't call me?
I think so. Yeah.
So it's not quantity; it's quality. It's not trying to get wide; it's trying to get narrow and specific.
It's honestly, it's like I want to go for the people that know all the people. Right. So why do I need to know everybody when I could just know a few people that know everybody? So I'm more of a strategic aspect on that. So okay, if I'm going to sit there and, well, I don't want to go down the hole because I might call some people out, be like, why are you friends with them? But
that's how we right?
So, but ultimately, okay, I'll give you a case in point, right? Just a simple business example. Like when I was opening up states for our service area management company for Fannie Mae, we had to open up Chicago, right? So case in point, I'm friends with in Washington, I'm friends with the VPs for Fidelity, National Title, and all that stuff. And I think one of the most underutilized resources is your title reps and your title companies for networking purposes specifically, because they know who's doing business and stuff. So I was
closing deals.
I always leveraged that. Anytime I opened up in another state, I'd always reach out to my Fidelity, and I became really good friends with the Florida Fidelity National VP and stuff there. And anytime I opened up anywhere, I was like, get me in touch with whoever the people are in that state or that city. And then so in Chicago, I had like 1 week to hire a whole bunch of contractors for Fannie Mae. And so I reached out to the Fidelity manager there after getting introductions from 2 different Fidelity people from different states. And I leveraged them to say, I need to meet as many builders and contractors as you know. Who are your clients that are your builders? Who are your clients that are contractors they work with and other investors and da-da-da. And I started selling them on the fact that like, this is going to be good for Fidelity as well. And he's like, cool. I interviewed something like 65 or 68 contractors in 3 days, and I did nothing for it. All I had to do was just show up, and Fidelity had all those contractors there for me because I found who knew everybody, and then built a relationship with them to show it's valuable. And then they went out there and got all the work done for me, so that I could just show up and do my thing, right? But that's a business aspect on it. But even then, like, how can you do that with, for me, I'm like, okay, if I want to become friends with the people at Bigger Pockets, is it good to go to the person that just started MVP, or do I go start? How do I get in friends with Scott Tranch, Brandon Turner, and all those other guys?
Invite your conference,
whatever. Right? So it's those kind of like strategic leveraging and networking that I try to focus on. But it's genuine too. Like, I mean, the worst case is like, if we're friends, we're just friends. We just hang out. I don't care. So it's like there's nothing other than that.
So then, if I may add, like those relationships of the real shakers and movers has really opened our eye. Like, we were not a big thinkers of like 5-10 years from now. I think of hanging out, like who your sphere of influence is has made a huge impact to us. Like, we became friends, and we have couples like Rich and Kathy Fetke's, like such an amazing couple, like our besties. Like, we look up to them of how they led their lives, how they build, not only in business, but like what they are. So I think as a people, we get so much satisfaction, and it's mutual. Like, we have vacations together, like-minded people who are crushing in this business.
Because there's zero chance I will network and become friends with somebody that I don't want to be friends with. Like, it's just like, if they're like-minded, if they're the same type of drive or more or better, then I want to be friends with them anyways, right? So why wouldn't I? And I think most people that are at most people like to be around people like themselves, or people that are better than them. Well, actually, that's not true. Not everybody likes to be around people that are better than them because of an ego situation. But once you can get past that, it raises you up. So anyways, that's what I do now. Is it's more strategic, focused networking than anything.
That's been absolutely fascinating, you guys. Thank you very much for dedicating your time. I know you're busy. You're networking. You gotta know who you know. You gotta know people who know other people. And hopefully, I mean, you sharing this information out there will come back to you in many ways. So thank you for taking the time.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
you guys
so
are awesome. All right, we'll see you guys. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.